That photo is the last thing that anybody will see of her alive. I started getting these texts. Have you seen this?
The police scanner had lit up.
They were talking about a girl who was found on Valley Road.
The marks on the throat, the bruising, they were consistent with homicide.
Without a confession, the investigation could go on for months, even years. When the case broke, it broke big and fast.
When the story starts to change, that's a pretty good indicator that someone's lying.
Here's your key piece of evidence, and it's in a picture on Facebook.
I was in shock. Like, where did this plot twist come from?
March 2015, Saskatoon, Canada. A picturesque town straddling the Saskatchewan River. 18-year-old Brittany Gargle is a senior in high school with a bright future.
I met Brittany in 8th grade. We were in gym class and we had to be partners and we played dodgeball, and after that we found out that we lived 5 blocks away from each other and we would always hang out.
I just thought she was kind of bubbly and hyper and very friendly and outgoing person. And I like that about her.
Me and Brittany loved to do our hair, makeup. Every night she'd knock on my window and we would sit outside and talk, and she'd bring pizza and Slurpees. She treated me like a sister. If I didn't have money for anything, she would hand it to me. If she didn't have anything, I'd give it to her. She was just somebody to lean on.
Brittany also impresses her friends with an unusual level of responsibility for her age.
She was 17, she was working full-time, she was going to school full-time, and she had goals. She was definitely driven to get what she wanted. She wanted to build and own her own hotels. I knew right away that this girl was going to go places and do things.
Despite her sunny disposition, Brittany had a difficult childhood. Her mother struggles with addiction, and she grew up not knowing her father.
Brittany, growing up, she lived with her grandma. She was such a kind lady, made sure she always had what she needed. She definitely wanted a relationship with her mother, but she understood that there was circumstances that she couldn't change. Brittany, she was doing really good, had her job, and doing everything that she needed to do. She seemed really great and that she was doing great in life.
On March 24th, 2015, just months before graduation, Brittany makes plans to go out with 18-year-old Cheyenne Antoine, a good friend she's known since 9th grade.
Cheyenne, she just seemed like a quiet, nice girl when I did meet her. They would go for walks and hang out outside.
Brittany and Cheyenne had developed a close bond because they both had difficult childhoods.
Cheyenne had this history where her folks had died. She was raised in the foster care system and then suffered sexual abuse.
Early in the evening, Brittany and Cheyenne stopped by Atasha's house.
And I just lent Brittany some gas money because she needed to get around. And then I told her to be careful, you know, if you need me, call me and I'll come pick you up or whatever. And she gave me a hug and that was it. That was my last interaction with her.
Just after midnight, Brittany posts a selfie on social media with Cheyenne.
They're at her grandma's house getting ready and dressed up for their evening out. Brittany was just You know, I think she was just happy to get out and hang out with her friend. And Cheyenne looks like she's just ready to go party, and Brittany just looks so relaxed and just ready for whatever life is bringing her.
Six hours later, at 6:02 a.m. on March 25th, Saskatoon Police Radio Dispatch sends out an alert.
That particular morning, I was already out at the scene of a shooting, and the police scanner lit up. And when they switched to their emergency channel, and when they talk about a female injured and or in distress, you knew it was serious right away. At that point, I bailed out of the scene I was at and drove out to that area. I had to go see with my own eyes while it was still a fresh scene.
A motorist spotted a young woman lying on the side of the road in a remote area near the Saskatoon landfill.
Initially, on an outdoor crime scene like that, you need to protect the scene as best you can to preserve evidence as soon as you get there.
The victim appears to be in her late teens or early 20s, has no shoes on, and her body is cold to the touch.
By the time I'd gone out there, they were hurting already. I could only get to within about 100 meters of where the body was.
Paramedics try to resuscitate the unidentified victim and rush her to the hospital. But she's pronounced dead on arrival. Police immediately suspect foul play.
The signs that she was the victim of a homicide were pretty obvious. The marks on the throat, the bruising, and all the injuries that were consistent with homicide.
At the crime scene, investigators find several potential pieces of evidence: a leather jacket, a belt, and a woman's watch.
The fact that her body was found on the outskirts of town raised a lot of red flags for investigators. My first instincts were that it was like a sexual predator type murder.
There was no immediate suspect. There was no motive. There was nothing there. Because I've covered crimes like this in the past, I thought this was a body dump. If I've hurt somebody and want to dispose of their body, this is the first natural point where you would throw a body out of a vehicle, because you've just cleared the last neighborhood. Nobody's going to see you there. It seemed pretty clear to me, based on my experience, that this is not where the person had had the bad things done to them. So right away, you had a scene that was not the crime scene.
I think there's always that kind of concern about, is this an isolated incident? Is this random? The killer is on the loose. That's often where my mind goes when I start to get into an investigation and start to cover crime cases.
Hoping to identify the victim or get leads to the killer, investigators release photos of the items found at the scene. They also release pictures of the victim's distinctive tattoos.
I think I turned the TV on around 7:30, and I turned on the news. They were talking about a girl who was found on Valley Road, and I was like, wow, that's just right down the street from where I live. And they said that they're still trying to identify her.
I started getting these texts, have you seen this? And then I looked and I'm like, there was the jacket, the tattoo, the line, the 2 stars. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Brittany. My heart sunk.
I literally dropped on my couch and started crying because I was like, this is no way. She was just here not even like 9 hours ago. And then I ended up calling the police station and I said, I know who it is. And they asked me to come down. I I went down to the police station right away and did a statement, and I couldn't believe it still. Like, it was just unreal. Like, I almost couldn't fathom that it happened, but it happened, and I couldn't stop crying. Those images, the jacket, and the broken watch, I couldn't get those images out of my head because she was wearing those things when she left my house.
So they had the identification fairly quickly, but that's all they had.
Like, why? That was the last night of her life. That photo is the last thing that anybody will see of her alive.
Investigators key in on an unusual murder weapon.
That belt may well have made the marks on her throat that caused her death.
And focus on an unlikely suspect.
I was shocked because of who it was.
Regardless of how improbable or salacious a story, they have to take it apart.
And that's why a lot of us started thinking, maybe, this is going to be one of those unsolved mysteries.
Police in Saskatoon, Canada have learned that a murder victim found dumped on the side of the road is a local high school senior, Brittany Gargle.
This was a young woman who didn't fit the image of someone you would expect to find dead on the edge of town. She wasn't living on the street. She had stuff together. She had jobs. She had a family. She had all of those things.
When detectives learned from Brittany's family that she was active on social media, they delve into her accounts, looking for insights about her life and perhaps clues about what led to her death.
The police found the photo of Cheyenne and Brittany together, the selfie on the Facebook page. It was the last photo of Brittany Gargle.
They had a selfie posted of them on Facebook 6 hours before Brittany's death.
Detectives also discover a heartbreaking Facebook post by Cheyenne, made hours after Brittany's body was found.
She was posting on Brittany's Facebook wall, "Where are you? Haven't heard from you. Hope you made it home safe."
Police want to talk with Cheyenne to learn what she can tell them about Brittany's activities on the night before her body was discovered. They don't have to look far. Prompted by all the news stories about the murder, Cheyenne comes to them.
Cheyenne Antoine called police, and she told them what had happened the night before. And she basically said that she was with Brittany, it was a party night, they went to a few bars. So there's a timeline starting to be created leading up to when Brittany's body was found.
Cheyenne tells police that on March 24th, around midnight, she started partying at Manchester's pub. A couple hours later, Cheyenne says they went to a house party. And by 4 a.m., ended up at the Colonial Pub and Grill.
They apparently met a guy there. Brittany asked him for a lighter, invited him along.
Cheyenne describes him as a white male, about 30 years old, but she does.
After that, Cheyenne said that she got dropped off to visit her uncle and that she didn't ever see Brittany after that or had no idea where she went from there. And she actually gets her uncle on the phone to corroborate this story, and he, gives the same information.
As investigators begin trying to identify the mystery man Cheyenne says she last saw Brittany with, on March 26th, the day after Brittany was found by the side of the road, the results of her autopsy come in.
It was clear that Brittany had not been sexually assaulted. She died of suffocation by ligature, basically strangled to death. From the patterns on her neck. It wasn't a rope or a shoelace, but it was something else that left unusual marks.
One of the items of clothing that was found alongside Brittany's body was a belt. And the belt, a very interesting part of the case, because they believe that the belt was the murder weapon.
That belt may well have made the marks on her throat of the ligature that caused her death.
Brittany's family doesn't recognize the belt as belonging to her. Detectives send all of the items found near Brittany's body to the crime lab for DNA testing. When the results of the DNA tests come in, they show traces of Brittany's DNA on the belt, along with one other unidentified individual. One week after her, family and friends attend her funeral. Despite the injuries she suffered, her family wants an open casket.
Walking in there was hard. Seeing all her high school friends. And we got to go up and say goodbye. And it was really hard because she didn't even look like Brittany. Her face it was different. It was so swollen from the damage that you literally could not recognize her. It was really hard to say goodbye.
As Brittany's friends mourn, detectives continue to follow up on the information provided by Brittany's friend Cheyenne. They visit the bars she says the pair went to, hoping surveillance video of the man Cheyenne says she saw with Brittany.
Everything you do is on camera now. And it's such a big part of homicide investigations now.
The bars do have security systems. And the footage confirms that the girls pulled into the parking lot at the first bar, Manchester's Pub, at midnight, just as Cheyenne reported. Then, investigators move on to the final bar Cheyenne says they visited that night.
Cheyenne told the police that Brittany left in the early morning hours with a male individual from the Colonial Pub and Grill. The story was that she left with a male acquaintance. The police, of course, checked the surveillance videos from those two pubs.
But when police scour the video from the Colonial, it tells a very different story from the one they heard from Cheyenne.
They don't see any sign of Cheyenne and Brittany.
When Cheyenne said they were at the Colonial Pub and Grill and that Brittany left with another male, police knew that wasn't true when they watched the surveillance videos, and that simply did not happen. They were not there.
Police hunting for the killer of 18-year-old Brittany Gargle are reviewing hours of surveillance video from the last bar she is thought to have visited on the night of her murder. But they can find no images of either Brittany, her friend Cheyenne, or the man with whom Cheyenne says she left the bar.
Well, geez, they don't turn up on any other surveillance video. That really threw people.
Police are now very suspicious of this narrative they've been given.
And what they did is start going through Cheyenne's story and looking for inconsistencies.
That includes taking another look at Cheyenne's claim that Brittany and the man she met at the Colonial Pub gave her a ride and dropped her off to visit her uncle around 4 a.m. on March 25th. A story her uncle corroborated. So detectives obtained the security footage from the assisted living facility where Cheyenne's uncle lives.
They examined those surveillance videos, and that was not true either. So her story was starting to fall apart.
So then they go talk to her uncle.
And he cracks. And he basically says, yeah, my niece made me make it up because the real story she gave me was a lot more intense. And he's going, I don't know if this happened. This is just what she told me. Cheyenne had told her uncle they were out at the bar that night and that they essentially went back to a motel room with what she described as two black men. And she told her uncle that they got into some kind of argument over cocaine. Cheyenne goes to the bathroom. When she comes back out, Brittany's on a bed. She has marks on her neck. And she's apparently dead. And one of these guys holds a gun to her head and basically tells her, you have to help me get rid of her.
And then she went to her uncle's house.
Detectives are immediately skeptical of the story Cheyenne's uncle claims she told him.
I think what's problematic for the police is, regardless of how improbable or salacious a story Cheyenne Antoine is offering, they have to take it apart and dismiss it to their satisfaction.
You have to investigate it. You have no choice.
That's the definition of what a police investigation is. You have to be able to say, you know, actually, we did check this out. We looked at the video, and there were no black drug dealers at the Colonial or wherever the hell you were saying you were that night. It just doesn't add up.
Cheyenne's second story, two black fellows killed Brittany, was thoroughly investigated, and that clearly did not happen either. That didn't make a lot of sense. Neither of those stories panned out. There was no evidence to support any of them.
Cheyenne's inconsistencies and outright lies earn her another interrogation. On May 5th, 5 weeks after Brittany's murder, detectives interview her again. But this time, they meet at the Saskatoon jail. Because Cheyenne has recently been arrested for shoplifting.
She was not willing to share anything with the police. She wouldn't talk about that evening at all. That made it difficult. But with her various stories, and her various stories not checking out, it became obvious that she was a suspect.
I remember them saying, so they are looking into Cheyenne, and then my heart just dropped. How is that possible?
I was in shock. And I just looked at my partner, and my partner looked at me, and we both were like, she was in our home a couple times. Like, what happened? Where did this plot twist come from?
Despite her conflicting stories, investigators have no evidence connecting Cheyenne to Brittany's murder, and no obvious motive for her to have done it.
Even though you strongly suspect a person of the crime, you have to keep a clear mind and not get so laser focused on the person telling the falsehoods that you get basically tunnel vision and you miss a possible suspect.
Without any witnesses and no apparent motive, it was pretty clear this was going to be a tough case to crack.
Two months after Brittany Gargle's murder, police have identified her friend Cheyenne Antoine as a suspect, based on the misinformation Cheyenne has told them about the last night of Brittany's life. But they have no evidence yet to support those suspicions.
Police are very tight-lipped about investigations here. We do nothing other than what they want us to know in the investigation stage of something, and their reason is always because it's under investigation.
Everybody was getting very upset. They couldn't understand, why is this taking so long? And that's why a lot of us started thinking, like, maybe, you know, this is going to be one of those unsolved mysteries.
Why? What happened? Like, why does nobody know what happened? Like, this could happen to anybody else. It just drove me crazy.
Then, Brittany's family receives a phone call from out of the blue. From someone who says they want to get something off their chest.
A relative of Cheyenne's, her auntie, admitted that the night that Brittany died, Cheyenne had driven up and was in a panicky state.
It sounds like it was such a chaotic night. Cheyenne was drunk, and obviously good decisions weren't being made all around.
Cheyenne was drunk, crying, upset, saying she had strangled her friend Brittany.
Brittany's family immediately reports the call to the police. And investigators quickly track down Cheyenne's aunt. She confirms the story and breaks open the case.
And that was one of the big leads that police had been missing.
The aunt's damning story convinces investigators that they finally found Brittany's killer. But there still isn't solid enough evidence for an arrest.
Anything the aunt said would have to be solidified by evidence.
With no physical proof that Cheyenne killed her friend, police are now hoping for a direct confession. But even when confronted with her aunt's story, Cheyenne continues to deny that she had anything to do with Brittany's death.
It was really frustrating. Without a confession from the suspect, an investigation could go on for months, even years.
The fact that Cheyenne wouldn't give a statement to the police made it difficult. She wouldn't talk about that evening at all, other than the lies that we know that she told the police.
Under Canadian law, detectives need stronger evidence than the aunt's story to obtain a warrant for Cheyenne's arrest, or even a DNA test.
On how long it took, it felt ridiculous. But I understand at the same time, these are not things you find out overnight, and it takes quite a long time.
On September 10th, 2015, 6 months after the murder, Cheyenne posts on social media about how much she loves and misses her friend.
It presents like somebody who's really genuine and worried about their friend.
She posted that long paragraph about, I hope whoever he is, he's found. I knew there was something more to it, just didn't seem right.
Cheyenne's Facebook comment pours salt in the wounds of Brittany's loved ones, and it also adds to law enforcement's suspicions of her.
It just must have been maddening for them, because they would know. We've got so much, but we don't have it all.
The case drops out of the headlines, and to those outside of the investigation, it appears to go cold.
I mean, nobody was talking. Everyone was kind of wondering what had happened with Brittany Gargoyle's death.
The Saskatoon police kept a pretty close eye on Cheyenne. They knew where she was, they knew what she was doing. The Police are very diligent investigating serious crime like this. They just don't stop.
As part of that effort, detectives decide to take a fresh look at all of the evidence they've collected. And they discover detail in their files that they now realize was previously overlooked.
And that's where the selfie picture comes into play. A very, very important picture.
When investigators re-examine their case file in the murder of Brittany Gargle, they realize a key piece of evidence may have been hiding in plain sight. The selfie that Brittany posted just hours before her death.
We had the photo of Cheyenne and Brittany together 6 hours before she died. And if you look closely, tucked in the bottom corner of that photo, Cheyenne's wearing the belt they found at the scene.
It's this thick black braided belt. It's quite distinct. I mean, you wouldn't have thought anything about it if you had just regularly looked at that photo. It's not sinister, just presents like two smiling friends.
I think that was like an aha moment.
When the case broke, it broke big and fast.
Here's your key piece of evidence, and it's in a picture on Facebook. Doesn't get much better than that when you're trying to prosecute somebody for murder.
It's like playing poker where you turn the cards and the whole deck flips. They went from having nothing to having everything.
The discovery gives the detectives the evidence they need to order new DNA tests on the belt.
It has both the girls' DNA on it. It substantiates the theory that the belt was the murder weapon, that essentially Cheyenne used that belt to strangle Brittany.
Now that they have the evidence they've been looking for, tying Cheyenne to Brittany's murder, detectives bring her in for one more interview.
You should always attempt to get a confession. It lets them tell what happened in their own words, even though you investigated and you have a clear picture of what happened.
But Cheyenne still will not confess. In fact, she still refuses to talk at all.
Cheyenne was just shutting down at that point. Maybe it was weighing on her.
Despite her continued silence, police finally have enough to arrest Cheyenne for second-degree murder.
It was shock and happiness because we finally had some answers. So I was happy about the answers, but I was shocked because of who it was. We honestly thought it was just she lost her friend. And we all felt bad for her. Now it makes me angry. Don't know how she slipped through the cracks for so long. It was just shocking.
After her arrest, Cheyenne tells detectives she is finally ready to talk.
She basically said it was a party night. They had gone at least to a house party that had been corroborated, and lots of drugs and alcohol were being used that night. By all accounts, both women were intoxicated. They went to a few bars. She says that her last memory is at 4:30 in the morning of being in a McDonald's, and that she remembers, she didn't really use the term getting into a fight with, but Brittany getting frustrated over something. She doesn't remember what happened after that, but she couldn't deny that she was the person that killed her friend.
Due to the fact of what happened to her.
As Cheyenne's trial approaches, Canadian Crown prosecutors face a unique challenge.
One of the frustrating things about her not really admitting what she did, there was no motive. She didn't offer a reason as to why she killed her friend.
It's one of those cases where we really didn't get an answer as to why this happened. And that has a lot to do with drugs. The fact that Cheyenne was so intoxicated that night that she can't remember killing someone, like, I think speaks volumes to the unanswered questions of this case. What could have made Cheyenne so angry in that moment that that's where her anger went?
So all of a sudden, this notion of culpability is a little more unclear. There's no clear motive. And the Crown, by law, is obligated to go through a checklist of factors to take into account. Her family circumstances, education, addictions, poverty, all of that.
Sometimes you just don't know what the motive is, and no one will ever tell you. It doesn't make sense why a person kills another person or commits a horrible crime against another person. And sometimes there is no motive. You're just evil.
Two years after the murder of Brittany Gargle, her friend Cheyenne Antoine is charged with second-degree murder. Cheyenne claims that due to the drugs and alcohol she consumed, she has no memory of the night that Brittany died. As her trial approaches, prosecutors believe they can prove Cheyenne killed Brittany. But to maximize her sentence, they'll also have to prove she intended to murder her.
The fact that Cheyenne wouldn't admit what she did to the police made it difficult to prove criminal intent. Second-degree murder is a murder with full intent to kill. Manslaughter can have the reduced intent to kill. We accepted the plea of guilty to manslaughter on the basis that she was drunk at the time.
Cheyenne Antoine is sentenced to 7 years in prison. She is eligible for release in 2024.
Seven years actually is the ballpark for manslaughter in the sentence in Saskatchewan. And I've seen it as low as 2 years.
Still, Brittany's loved ones are devastated.
She was a wonderful person whose life was cut short, and it's not fair. It's just not fair.
We thought it was bullshit. She was given so many chances. What more do you need to see that this person is not going to learn?
People have gone to jail a lot longer for killing their dog or cat. It does not make sense. Why is she getting a slap on the wrist? She's still young enough to go out there and live a full life, still have a family, build everything and anything that Brittany will never have.
Brittany's friends are in disbelief that Cheyenne could forget strangling her.
I think she knows and remembers, but is playing it off as, I was inebriated and I'm going to use that card. And I don't think that's fair either.
They also struggle with how long it took for police to connect the dots and make an arrest.
It felt ridiculous. We're not going to look at a picture and be like, oh, look, there's the murder weapon. But it was a little frustrating that the answer was right there.
The existence of the photo and why it took so long to really definitively connect that to Cheyenne, I still don't really quite know. But I think the numerous attempts to mislead police certainly did not make the investigation straightforward. They would have had to follow a lot of false leads, and that takes time and resources. And I mean, we don't have a huge police service here, so it's one of those things where I think they just had to eventually get the right things to crack, and that eventually happened.
The fact that it was a friend who took Brittany's life is especially difficult for her loved ones. But they are determined that her memory will live on.
I miss her bubbly, happy, positive personality. I miss her quite often because I see her every day. I don't tear up every day, but I still, once in a while, I do get a little bit emotional thinking about back in the day with her, what she could have been now. I just feel saddened that she's missed out on her life.
I got to hang out with Brittany 2 weeks prior to everything that happened to her. We got to sit in her car and catch up for a bit, talking about our lives and where we are and how we're so surprised how much we're growing up and about being the people that we are. When I'm walking by the river and going for walks, every day it reminds me of her. Brittany was a very loving person, and she did everything she could to make another person happy. I'm glad that my last memory of her was her smiling and hanging out and laughing.
It's the last time you see pictures of all of the family together.
When that family was entering the house, he heard the gunshots.
911. Someone just shot our neighbors. Who shot them? We don't know.
There was a small gun safe. It had been pried open. Was this just a home invasion that went bad?
Sit there and think, what kind of relationship did they actually have?
This is not the all-American family that everybody might think they are.
In my opening statement, I told the jury panel, you're about to hear a tale of subterfuge, deception, and greed.
December 2003, Sugar Land, Texas. Kent and Tricia Whitaker and their two sons, Bart and Kevin, have called this affluent suburb home for more than a decade. It's a perfect fit for their upscale lifestyle.
Sugar Land was an amazing place to grow up. It was a community focused on faith, focused on friendships, relationships, a really tight-knit community. The Whitaker family was a pillar in the community. I attended a private school there in Sugar Land, and Kevin did too, and we were fast friends. The Whitaker family did so much together, whether it be fishing trips or camping trips, you know, times on the lake. Kent and Tricia maintained that really sweet closeness with their kids and that high level of trust and communication. They loved to experience life as a family.
I was the Whitakers' next door neighbor. They were very normal, kind, empathetic people. They seemed not troubled, unburdened. Life is good. That was my general vibe.
To friends and neighbors, the Whitakers seem to have it all. A happy family where 19-year-old Kevin looks up to his 23-year-old brother, Bart.
Kevin was very humble. He was a man of integrity, of character, incredibly honest. The guy was smart, very engaging. Bart was a little bit more quiet. You didn't know necessarily what he was thinking like you did Kevin.
Kent Whitaker is the co-owner of a thriving construction company. A hard worker, His financial success means he can provide his family with everything they might want. His wife, Tricia, is a dedicated part-time elementary school teacher.
She loved and knew every kid in every class every single year. And the interesting part was that she didn't have to work, right, because of Kent's job. But it told you a lot about her heart.
On December 10th, 2003, Kent and Tricia plan a special night out for the family to celebrate Bart's graduation from Sam Houston State University. At dinner, they present their son with a $4,000 Rolex watch as a graduation gift.
I know what a Rolex costs, and he bought a Rolex as a graduation gift. That's not an everyday thing.
Kent is a proud dad and takes photos so they'll have a permanent record of Bart's achievement.
I've seen these. I've seen those. Sitting there smiling like that. Very happy.
It's the last time you see pictures of all of the family together.
Someone just shot our neighbors. Who shot them? We don't know.
I was there when they died. That was real, and I can't necessarily make sense of what I saw that night. I was sitting at my computer. I heard gunshots. I immediately dart out the front door. I get about midway down our sidewalk and I see Kent Whitaker laid on his back. You could see his body lit up by their front porch lights. And he was saying, Brandon, we've been shot. Call 911.
What kind of injuries did they have? I don't know. They just been shot.
Brandon's father, Cliff Stanley, rushes to the house and discovers that Kent Whitaker has been shot in the chest.
My dad runs out and starts rendering aid. I mean, multiple trips, back and forth with house, just doing what we can. It felt awful. It was gruesome. It was a horror movie.
While police race to the scene, another 911 call comes from inside the Whitaker home. It's Bart Whitaker.
I've been shot. Where is your wound? In the arm, my shoulder. I think I can't with my arm. Okay, who else has been shot in the house with you? It's my mom and my dad and my brother. Oh, God, I can't. I need you to hang on, Bart. I've got help on the way, okay? Do you know who shot you? No. Dark in here. Okay, when he left, Bart, did he leave out your back door? Yeah, I chased him that way.
When I arrived on scene, it was very chaotic. There was ambulances, there were multiple police cars, fire trucks, a helicopter.
When detectives arrive at the Whitaker home, they find Kent Whitaker hanging on to life.
EMS personnel had went in. They had taken vitals for Kevin Whitaker, and he was pronounced deceased. Patricia Whitaker was flown by helicopter to a Houston hospital, and we were told she died en route to the hospital. Bart Whitaker had been shot. He was being medically treated by EMS. 2 people were shot, another 2 people were dead. So we knew within the first hour that it was a double murder.
Kent Whitaker and his son Bart are rushed to a nearby hospital. Detectives quickly arrive to get a statement from Bart, since he is the only one conscious. Bart tells them that the family had just arrived home from their celebratory dinner when he realized he forgot something.
Bart Whitaker had reported that he had actually walked out to his truck to retrieve a cell phone. But when the rest of the family was entering the house, there was a guy that was inside that house. So he heard the gunshots. Bart reported he had chased the shooter through the home and out the back of the house and been shot by the offender. We had had several home invasion robberies. So the thought initially was, are they connected? Was this just a home invasion that went bad?
But something doesn't quite add up.
Probably the biggest thing that stuck out to us was every drawer in the rooms were pulled out exactly even with each other.
So this burglar basically purposely, I'm gonna pull out every drawer about this, so it'll make it look like I was trying to look for stuff. But you weren't looking for anything. You were just pulling out drawers. The officers immediately knew that.
To the investigators, seems to have the hallmarks of a staged burglary. Nothing appears to have been stolen.
There were electronics, there were computers, there was TVs. There was a Rolex watch that was found. There didn't appear to be anything taken. So things didn't add up exactly to being some type of burglary.
Burglars come in and leave within minutes. They smash everything they can, pick up everything in 3 minutes. That's what happens. They don't sit there and wait for people to come home and walk in through the front door and shoot them. It just doesn't happen.
While investigators try to make sense of why the Whitakers were gunned down, they realize they have another pressing matter in front of them.
We had a vague description of a dark figure that ran up through the back of the house. And now this person is loose in the neighborhood. So are they on foot? Did they get picked up by a car? Did they drive a car there and now they've driven away? Or are they hiding in someone's backyard and they've already shot 4 people? The public's in danger, and we were in a very tough spot. Where is he, or where could he be?
Police try to unravel a bewildering attack.
I crawled around for a bit. I really didn't know where I was hit. It just felt wrong.
And discover details of an inconceivable plot.
I was at the police station late one night, and there was a knock on the back door.
Do you have any idea who did the shooting? Who did the shooting?
All the puzzle pieces just immediately connected, and realizing, gosh, the worst possible explanation for this is true.
As police in Sugar Land, Texas begin investigating the shooting at the Whitaker home, news travels fast in the tight-knit community.
I got a call from a friend. He's like, hey, there's been an incident, there's been a shooting. It was Kevin who had passed away, and Trisha had passed away as well. It was the most horrendous thing possible. And so at that moment, there's so much happening, you can't reconcile anything. You can't process, you can't grieve, it's just all hell's broken loose. December 10th, 2003 was a day that is burned in my memory. What went down, and then why?
Detectives are urgently pursuing those answers at the Whitaker home. As they search through the house, they find a weapon and 4 empty shell casings.
There was a gun that was found in the kitchen area, which was odd. It's probably the murder weapon. Usually we don't find that the offender leaves the murder weapon on the scene. But it was an advantage for us, because now we had the possibility maybe for fingerprints, for DNA, for other types of evidence that could be recovered from this gun. In one of the upstairs rooms, nothing in that room appeared to be touched at all, except for there was a small gun safe. It had been pried open. You could see pry marks around the frame. It was empty.
The gun safe was Small little box, maybe a foot by foot, tucked into a hidden area. Whoever did this knew what to look for and knew what was in the safe.
The discovery leads the investigators to question how familiar the killer was with the Whitaker family and their home.
It was odd that someone had this small gun safe out of this whole big house. Why weren't the computers disturbed? Why weren't the TVs taken? They just didn't make sense. So our job was to try to find out who, how many people were involved with this.
Most people are killed by people who know them. 78, 80%. It's very strange you have stranger and stranger. It just doesn't occur that much.
Three days after the murders, police are still scouring the evidence for leads on a motive or suspect when Bart Whitaker is discharged from the hospital. His father, Kent, is still in intensive care.
Up this way.
Despite the trauma he's just endured, Bart agrees to assist detectives by returning home to relive that terrifying night. The investigators hope he can remember something that will lead them to the killer.
It's 7:54 p.m. Officer DuBose is going to be playing the part of the suspect, and I'm turning it over to Bart for his direction of everyone.
We went through the crime, trying to figure out exactly what happened.
I was here when I was calling 911. I might have fallen forward.
Okay.
Right after I was shot.
Okay.
I crawled around for a bit. It felt... I really didn't know where I was hit. It just felt wrong. I mean, I couldn't move. My arm, I tried to push off the floor, and my arm wasn't working. I thought maybe I was hit in the side because it burned.
So he went out the back door? Did you see him leave that back door?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't remember.
They had him reenact the scene. And people generally, when it comes to crimes, they try to be very specific. Like he was standing here or something like that. And his was, well, I don't remember, it was this way, or could have been this way.
When the shot was fired, did you see any flashes of light?
I don't remember.
You ever physically make contact with the suspect?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't know what I was trying to do. I know I was just trying to grab him. I don't think I got to him.
He was very vague about things you'd think he would remember.
At that point, we had no leads. We had just a family of 4 that had been shot, 2 that were deceased.
They came home at the wrong time, in the wrong place. That's the story that you typically hear, right? That's the initial reaction. It's just incredibly unfortunate, right? How does this even occur in Sugar Land?
Detectives investigating the murders of Tricia Whitaker and her son Kevin in Sugar Land, Texas, believe their killer was familiar with the Whitaker home and may not have been trying to rob them.
So we started doing a background on the family. The domestic relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker was nothing but perfect that we could find out. And every friend or family that we had interviewed said they had a great relationship.
Detectives turned their focus on the Whitakers' murdered son, 19-year-old Kevin.
Was he targeted for some reason? Was he involved in something that he shouldn't have been? But he had no criminal history. As we were interviewing friends and family members, Kevin seemed to be a good kid, and he was a tragic victim.
Detectives also take a closer look at the other Whitaker son, 23-year-old Bart, who was wounded in the attack and is their primary witness. It was his graduation from college that was being celebrated shortly before the murders.
Bart was supposed to graduate that coming Saturday. So we had contacted Sam Houston State University, and we were told he wasn't graduating. As a matter of fact, he was a freshman as far as their academic rating, and he had like a 1.4 GPA. So we had a story that he was giving us that wasn't matching reality.
He was lying about going to school for the past 3 years. And so they zeroed in on him.
It sure seemed at the time it was too coincidental that this big family event had occurred, and then they get home from this event and they're all shot. So was Bart involved with what had happened? Was he not involved? We had to gather evidence.
Investigators want to keep what they've learned about Bart Whitaker under wraps until they can either clear him or tie him to the murders. But a local newspaper covering the case has also learned of his deceit and runs the story. Bart's father, Kent, still recovering in the hospital, is stunned and can't understand why Bart would lie.
Kent's response to it was, why didn't he tell us this? I just wish he would have, let the music stop and confess this to us.
How could you not know your kid's not going to college? So you sit there and think, what kind of relationship did they actually have?
"6 days after the murders of his mother and brother, his father joined more than 1,000 friends and family at the funeral.
Gosh, that was a brutal day. I remember seeing Kent and Bart sitting on the front row and watching them, and, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? Just gutted for them and heartbroken for them.
We had multiple detectives that were there. We had actually had some recording devices that were placed around the area because there could be comments made. Because sometimes the parties involved go to the funerals, but we didn't find anything at all.
As the family mourns, Sugar Land police continue to focus on the questions that have arisen about Bart.
We had discovered that Bart had some involvement with the criminal justice system already. We had found a 2001 incident report from the Waco Police Department that there was a female subject that was in an apartment with Bart Whitaker, and she overheard him talking about wanting to kill his dad. We had an officer that actually went out to the house. It was early in the morning and made contact with both Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker and told them why he was there. But they didn't believe Bart would be involved with something like that.
Later on, when the father finally talks, he says, we're just talking about the Menendez brothers. It wasn't anything serious at all. And so the father just believes him, and that's it.
In the days after the murders, life seems to return to some semblance of normalcy for Bart and his father, at least from the outside.
And they were still living in the same house together where two of their family members died, and the suspicion is growing that Bart was involved.
And it wasn't life as normal, but from the outside, it was a dad and a son who had gone through this tragic event, locking arms and leaning into one another.
We had to determine how much are we going to tell Mr. Whitaker, because his life still could be in jeopardy with Bart still being around. And we didn't tell him everything. We tried to be as honest as we could with him.
There were maybe a few times that Kent would say, hey, they're still trying to find the guy, or they're still looking into it.
Mr. Whitaker was in a very hard position at that point. Slowly, kind of the bow's starting to unravel here, where there's information about his only living son that, at least initially, isn't adding up.
Police know Bart Whitaker didn't pull the trigger, but they strongly suspect he is involved in the murders of his family.
Bart was very manipulative with friends, and that was information that we received as the investigation went on. That's when the intensity ramped up into trying to identify who does he currently hang around with and where were they at on December 10th of 2003. This is not the all-American family that everybody might think they are.
Detectives in Sugar Land, Texas suspect Bart Whitaker knows more than he's saying about the murders of his mother and brother, and in fact, may be involved in the crime. But they have been unable to find any solid evidence supporting their suspicions. Then, a week after the murders, as investigators contemplate their next move, an unexpected visitor drops by the police station.
The lead detective was at the police station late one night, and there was a knock on the back door. It was a gentleman by the name of Adam Hipp.
Adam Hipp tells the detective that he briefly went to college with Bart Whitaker, and he wants police to know that Bart's statement about killing his parents in 2001 was far from the joke he claimed it was.
He said, listen, Bart Whitaker talked to me about killing his family before, back in 2001.
Adam tells police that Bart claimed once his parents and brother were dead, he would receive all of the family's assets, including their home and life insurance policies worth over $1 million. He says Bart offered him a cut if he would be his trigger man.
The detective had Mr. Hipp actually draw a map that showed where he was supposed to stand inside the house, and he would shoot the family members as they walked in. And that's exactly what happened on December 10th, 2003. Directly and said, I did it, but there were enough indicators there.
My opinion, we had probable cause to arrest Bart Whitaker on basically what we had with Adam Hipp coming in. We did have that. Do we have enough to prosecute him and convict him? No. We didn't have any details.
But Adam Hipp's call to Bart points the investigators to someone else who may be able to help them build their case.
When Adam Hipp is on the phone, Bart Whitaker mentions Chris Brashear. And what is Bart Whitaker? Chris is going to keep his mouth shut.
Adam tells police that Chris Brashear is a former roommate of Bart's. Detectives track down Chris and bring him in for questioning.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you coming down. Yeah, man.
After establishing the relationship between Bart and Chris, detectives hone in on the night of the murder.
Do you have any idea who did the shooting? Who did the shooting? Yeah, any ideas at all? Man, I mean, it's a pretty gross incident to me. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, it's kind of a blunt question. Has Bart ever approached you about killing his family? No. He's never talked to you about that or anything like that? No. Never even joked around about it? No. So did you go anywhere that night? Yeah. Where'd you go? Went to set. Hooters? Hooters? Yeah, that's right. And it was you and Steven? It was, yeah, Steven, his girlfriend, and myself. Yeah.
Investigators believe that Chris Brashear is lying to them. They learn that Steven is Steve Champagne, another former roommate of Bart's. And if Chris is providing Steve as a false alibi, detectives consider whether he might be involved as well.
Steve Champagne is enlisted in the Marines. We're looking at cell phone records, financial records. So who is communicating with who?
Police quickly locate Steve and bring him in for questioning.
Now, they say they don't know anything about it. They denied anything. So at least that's where they start.
Finally, as pressure grows, the story begins to change.
I think Steve Champagne, his conscience finally got to him. Then he let out a little information about when maybe I was involved.
Do you feel partly responsible?
Oh, yeah. Stephen Champagne changed his story and confessed.
Steve tells the detectives that Bart convinced him and Chris Brashear to join a plot to kill his family so he could inherit his parents' fortune. Steve admits he was the getaway driver, and Chris Brashear was the trigger man.
2003.
Did Chris say where he found the gun in the house?
No, I remember hearing something about a safe or something like that, but I don't know for sure.
Who do you think is the most responsible?
Probably Chris for shooting him. I mean, Bart planning it, yeah.
The big piece of information, evidence-wise, that Steve was able to provide to us is they had a bag that had a lot of evidence from the crime, walkie-talkies, water bottle, ammunition, that they tossed into Lake Conroe.
This is a big lake, man-made lake. They throw that in there. Now, what would be the odds of somebody being able to find that?
Steve Champagne, a suspect in the murders of Tricia and Kevin Whitaker, claims a bag full of crucial evidence was tossed into Lake Conroe, 50 miles north of Houston, and agrees to the spot.
The police department with their scuba tank, they go out and look for it. In water, you can't see your hand in front of you. They found the damn thing.
Inside the bag, detectives find the tool used to break into the Whitakers' gun safe.
They even found the pry bar, and they managed to match it up by the scrape marks. They even found the cell phone they were using. Now, you tell me what kind of police work that is. God bless.
There was DNA that was recovered. That was Chris Brashear's from a water bottle. There was ammunition that was consistent with the ammunition that was involved that killed the family. Tangible physical evidence that links these individuals to this crime.
With the evidence now in hand, detectives have what they need to confront Bart, but he's nowhere to be found.
Bart Whitaker's Tahoe was found in an apartment complex in Houston. Both of the doors were found open. We sent detectives to the scene. We believe he's on the run.
We just lost him. People don't run when they're innocent, they really don't. Flight is a very good indication of guilt.
Kent Whitaker told us that there was money that was taken from the house. So Bart had some money to survive. Our job was now to figure out where he was.
The news of Bart's disappearance is one more shock for his friends and family, already devastated by the murders.
That was the big kind of aha moment, was when Bart left. So that's really when everything, all the puzzle pieces just immediately connected. And I realized, gosh, the worst possible explanation for this is true.
It's too much to really break it down into a coherent single thought. Shock, disgust, and disbelief almost, that someone could plot and plan out something like this.
Police send out a nationwide alert to be on the lookout for Bart Whitaker. With the cash taken from his home, he could be anywhere. Meanwhile, Steve Champagne and Chris Brashear are charged with first-degree murder for the deaths of Tricia and Kevin Whitaker.
These were kids that came from great backgrounds, but were manipulated by Bart Whitaker to kill his family. And they went along with it because Bart had promised them a cut in his inheritance. And he had told them that, hey, it's going to take a little while, but I am going to give you some money.
For months, there are no leads to Bart's whereabouts.
So we worked with Crime Stoppers to put out that we were looking for the whereabouts of Bart Whitaker.
There's a Crime Stoppers award of $10,000. If you get information that leads to this arrest, we'll pay you 10 grand.
18 months after the murders, police get a call from a man named Rudy Rios.
Rudy Rios said that he had known Bart Whitaker and he knew where Bart Whitaker was because Bart Whitaker had assumed his identity and he went to Mexico.
Rudy Rios claims Bart paid him $3,000 to be transported to Mexico, and that Bart has been living there for more than a year.
Bart Whitaker shacks up with a female and begins a relationship with her.
Mexican officials agree to cooperate with American law enforcement. Almost 2 years after the murders, they track Bart down, and on September 24th, 2005, he is returned to the U.S.
We call up Ken Whitaker and said that he's going to be getting out of Mexico, but there was no deals made whatsoever. They just got him out. Put him back here and put him in jail. We had already made a decision. The only person we were seeking the death penalty was the mastermind, Bart Whitaker.
But Bart's defense attorneys work to thwart the possibility of a death sentence. At the heart of their strategy is Kent Whitaker.
Mr. Whitaker did not want the state of Texas to put his son to death, which is usually just kind of a reverse of roles where the family wants the maximum.
To forgive somebody of doing the most horrendous thing possible serves as a model of forgiveness. Something I think about all the time.
His standard was, I believe he's changed, and I'm going to forgive him. My standard is, he hasn't changed, and you can't forgive him.
All rise.
Bart Whitaker's capital murder trial begins on March 3rd, 2007, some 3.5 years since the killings at his family's home.
In my opening statement, I told the jury panel, you're about to hear a tale of subterfuge, deception, and greed, which will lead you to one conclusion, that Bart Whitaker had his family murdered. And that's the only conclusion he got.
Prosecutors put admitted getaway driver Steve Champagne on the stand. He explains how Bart outlined his murder for cash scheme.
The conversation was about when the family came back from eating dinner, that Chris would be in the house and shoot them.
The jury hears that Bart staged a fight with the gunman, and they'd agreed in advance Bart would be shot in the arm to divert suspicion. The trial lasts 6 days before the case goes to the jury on March 8th, 2007. They deliberate for just an hour and a half before coming to a unanimous decision.
The guilty verdict was very quick.
Now the jury must decide whether Bart Whitaker should live or die.
Call your next witness. Bart Whitaker. He needs to be sworn, gentlemen.
Bart didn't testify during his trial, but now, in the penalty phase, makes a last-ditch effort to save his life.
Please stand before the clerk and be sworn.
Bart Whitaker has been convicted of murdering his mother and brother. Now he's trying to convince the jury not to sentence him to death.
Was testifying, I actually had the defendant admit that he had no reason to hate his parents, but he did it anyway.
The only people I've ever hated, and I know it was not for the right reasons, but the only people I ever hated were my parents and my brother.
The prosecutor confronts Bart with his family's final moments, the photos taken by his father at the celebration for Bart's supposed graduation. He tells the jury one photo from that night is particularly disturbing.
He shoots a finger at him while he's doing it. Now, some people don't make that much of it. I'm sitting there going, you understand something? He's shooting a finger at him knowing they're going to be dead. It's very chilling.
The jury deliberates for 10 hours before sentencing Bart Whitaker to death.
It's a hard question, and people have a lot of opinions about it because they're removed from it. But when you know the people and you've been involved with them, and definitely as intimately involved with this entire murder as I was, you see things a little different. Because I believe Bart should have received the death penalty.
Bart's accomplices agree to plea deals. Triggerman Chris Brashear is sentenced to life behind bars, and Steve Champagne, the getaway driver, receives a lighter 15-year sentence for cooperating as a key witness.
How do you even begin to broach that conversation with someone? Like, there's no icebreaker for, hey, will you help me kill my family? It's brought me to the conclusion that evil is real, very tangible, and it has a long plan behind it, and I truly think Bart is evil.
Over the next decade, Kent Whitaker remarries and builds a new life. He continues to fight to get his son's death sentence commuted.
Kent Whitaker never said he was okay with what Bart did. He always said he should be punished, okay? But he didn't like us seeking the death penalty. That was it.
When are exhausted, his execution is scheduled for 6 p.m. on February 22nd, 2018. Then, with just 30 minutes until Bart is set to die, Texas Governor Greg Abbott grants him clemency.
And left, and I found on the news that they commuted to life.
I'll never forget the night that the news came out. I never forget that moment of seeing Kent break down. Man, it was over a decade of emotions. For me, I was on the side of commuting the sentence. Should he ever see the light of day? Absolutely not. That's a no-brainer.
One day, Kent's gonna die. And Bart will have no one left fighting for him, talking to him, coming to see him. And he'll have to live the rest of his life suffering like that. So I think he would have gotten off easy with the death penalty in this regard.
Trisha was gold. I find myself getting emotional thinking back to her. She cared for us. She loved us. She was invested in our lives. I miss Trisha dearly. I'm gutted that Kevin is gone. You know, Kevin was not a typical 18, 19-year-old, right? He wasn't a typical high schooler. He was always wiser than us. There was something in the yearbook our senior year. It was most likely to succeed, most athletic. His was who was the best, most humble, highest integrity human being, and it was Kevin. I started thinking about where would Kevin be now? I think that's what I still probably grieve, is not having that friendship for life.
She's walking at a quick pace. You can tell that she's comfortable with nobody behind her. And within minutes, she has vanished into thin air.
I said, "What do you mean they can't find her?"
Her mother, Dawn, left Rochester for Myrtle Beach after Brittany disappeared.
Helicopters, ATVs, horseback.
I saw what it was like to lose a child.
I had to find my daughter, and I wasn't going to stop until I got answers. Everybody just loved her.
We met through some mutual friends, started hanging out like normal teenagers. She just loved going and doing things. She wasn't somebody that liked to sit still.
When she was younger, Brittany was very sassy, loved to perform in front of people. She used to sing, and she would put on shows for us in the backyard. She was a great kid.
When Brittany turned 7, the Drexel family welcomes another child, Marissa.
When Marissa came along, she was very excited to have a little sister, and she was like a second mom. She would always help me. She would want to hold her all the time. She would want to feed her and play with her, and she loved being a big sister.
Bond where we could just lay and talk about things, or we could have those mother-like-daughter talks with each other, and she was always there when I needed her.
6 years after Marissa was born, Camden came along, and Brittany was a lot older. Like, Camden was her baby. Like, she just adored Camden.
My sister was a social butterfly. She had millions, billions of friends. She was full of energy. She was a spitfire. She was full of, I don't know what word I want to use. She was full of life.
That year, Brittany starts dating her first real boyfriend, a classmate named John Greco.
When we first met him, he had come over to the house because he wanted Brittany to go to prom with him. You know, she was going on 16, and we said, well, sure, bring him over, you know, we'll meet him and stuff. John came from a great family. His parents are super nice, and Brittany adored him.
She had a lot of big dreams and goals. She wanted to move out of Rochester. That was a huge thing.
My sister was into fashion.
Brittany liked making clothes. She had quite a few drawings. She would like dye jeans like with bleach, and her friends would buy them and stuff, and she also wanted to model. She said, I'm gonna have like 6 kids, and my husband's gonna stay home with them, and I'm gonna go to work. And I'm like, yeah, good luck with that.
When Brittany is in her junior year, her parents decide to divorce. It throws her into a tailspin.
She was upset about the divorce going on. It hurt, you know, and of course, as a child, you're going through emotions, and, you know, there was a lot of emotion there.
It took a while for Brittany to come down when she was angry, to come down from it. There was a lot going on at that time, and a lot of her schoolwork was falling behind, and so, Brittany had asked about going to Myrtle Beach.
Spring break here, everyone leaves. It's either still really cold, wintry, or it's rain and blow me out. Myrtle Beach was a party scene, big city for teenagers who wanted to go out and have fun on their young adulthood.
I told her, I said, Brittany, I don't think that's a good idea. I said, you know, I want you to get caught up on your schoolwork. She's like, well, Mom, I want to go to Myrtle Beach. And I just told her, you know, you're not going. And she goes, why, Mom? I said, you're not going to Myrtle Beach. I said, there's no parental supervision. I said, I don't know the kid you're going with. And I said, something's going to happen to you. And Brittany said, Mom, nothing's going to happen to me. I'll be fine. And I said, well, Brittany, you're not going. So about an hour later, she said, Mom, since it's my spring break, can I go stay at my friend's house? And I told her it was okay for her to stay there.
On the night of April 22nd, 2009, unbeknownst to her family, Brittany and 2 classmates, Alana and Jennifer, began a 13-hour drive to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I had called her and I said, Britt, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm gonna go to my friend's house. We're gonna watch a movie or whatever. And she says, I love you. And I told her, I said, I love you too.
Me and my mom thought she was here, but in reality, she wasn't. I told her I missed her. And then I said, wait, before you hang up, I want to say goodbye, I love you, one more time. It's the last time I heard her voice.
With her family still none the wiser, the girls arrive at the resort town on the morning of April 23rd. But as her sister will later learn, after 2 days at the beach, Brittany's spring break isn't going as planned.
She was texting John. John couldn't go because he was working, so he had to stay back. But John knew the whole time.
On Saturday evening, April 25th, Brittany texts John that she needs a break from the girls she traveled with.
The girls she went down with, I think, were a year or two older than her. And because they're girls, they're young teenage girls, and they were fighting. She told John she felt alienated and alone. She wanted to come back home.
Brittany tells John that she ran into one of her classmates, Peter Brazowitz, and has decided to go visit him at his hotel. Around 9:15 p.m., Brittany abruptly stops texting John. It's unlike her, so he worriedly calls her family.
John said, Brittany's in Myrtle Beach and they can't find her. I said, what do you mean they can't find her? I was livid. I said, I can't believe she went to Myrtle Beach because she had never done that in the past, like lied to me or anything like that. John came to my house. We were calling the kids that were in Myrtle Beach. The girls wouldn't answer their phone. I kept calling Brittany's phone. And it would ring, and it would ring, and then it went directly to voicemail. Every time I called Peter, Peter answered the phone every single time. But he's like, I'm not her babysitter. And at that point, I said, we need to get in touch with Myrtle Beach Police Department.
Dawn calls the Myrtle Beach police to report Brittany is missing. But she doesn't stop there. She decides to drive to South Carolina herself.
My mom said, listen, you're going to go with your dad for a couple days. I have to go. And all of a sudden, I went to go look at my phone. There's a mass text sent out from John Greco. And it's my sister's picture and missing information. And I said, what is this? Then I started crying. I'm shocked that I'm like, Brittany's missing. I was in a state of shock.
We got everything together. I think we left about maybe 11 the next morning, and it was a long ride. My phone was blowing up with her friends. They're calling me, crying, screaming, where's Brittany? As soon as I would hang up with someone, my phone would ring again. Like, all I knew is I had to find my daughter, and I wasn't gonna stop until I got answers.
A mother embarks on a relentless quest.
I said, I'm done with the bull. I said, I want my daughter found.
While the police drill down on one suspect after another.
Did I say you didn't? Okay? I say you didn't. I didn't.
There wasn't enough to arrest him. And he said, you're smart, you'll figure it out.
It felt like a roller coaster. You're just like, is she ever gonna be found?
After learning that her daughter Brittany Drexel is missing in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, her mom, Dawn, immediately begins driving there from her home in upstate New York, 800 miles away.
So I get to Myrtle Beach and I go to the police station.
But officers tell Dawn that with no evidence of a crime, there's little law enforcement can do. When she describes the argument she had with her daughter about spring break, They suggest that could be why Brittany isn't responding to calls and texts.
You've got bits of evidence that's saying she ran away from home, she rebelled against her mama, it's the day before she's supposed to go back, the idea that a young girl has just run away. But it is something that the police consider every time.
My mom knew my sister was not a runaway. No matter how much bad was going on in my sister's life at that point, she knew my sister wouldn't have ran away.
After failing to gain any traction with law enforcement, Dawn decides to take a different approach.
I go straight to the media. I went to Channel 13 and, I said, my daughter's missing. I want to get her name and face out there.
Her mother, Dawn, left Rochester for Myrtle Beach after Brittany disappeared.
To feel, that you don't know where your child is. You don't know if they're alive. You don't know if they're hurt. It's horrible.
Figured I'd be able to find her, and I'd have her back in a couple days and we'd just go home. And we just started looking everywhere, like on Ocean Boulevard, and talking to people, seeing if people seen her, showed her picture, and we were putting posters up. So we did that probably for about a good solid week.
As Dawn continues to search, her media efforts catch the attention of the police and spurs them to begin by interviewing the last person Dawn believes saw Brittany on the night she vanished, her classmate, Peter.
Peter was a little bit snarky, like, don't bother me. And the police were thinking, everybody wants to help. He doesn't want to be bothered. He said, I did know Brittany. I had met Brittany. We had hung out. We had texted back and forth, but I didn't have anything to do with her disappearance.
Peter claimed his hotel. He was hanging out with friends all night. While detectives check out his alibi, they also seek out anyone else known to have been in contact with Brittany in Myrtle Beach, including the girls she drove with from New York.
They went through each and every one of Brittany's friends for the short time that she was here, and they really scoured everything about them, and they were able to rule them out.
Peter's alibi also checks out.
He was able to show that everything that he was telling them was true.
But the investigation into Peter does lead detectives to a major discovery. His hotel, the Blue Water Resort, has surveillance cameras, captured images of Brittany on the evening of April 25th. Brittany enters the hotel at 8:33 p.m. And she appears again, exiting at 8:48 p.m.
As far as we knew, that was the last time that anybody had seen her. You can tell that she's walking at a fairly quick pace with nobody behind her. She's comfortable, but she's determined to get to wherever she is going.
It's just after leaving the hotel that Brittany exchanges her final texts with her boyfriend, John, at 8:58 p.m., expressing her desire to come home.
Within minutes, she has basically vanished into thin air.
Investigators request Brittany's cell phone records, hoping they might shed light on her whereabouts.
He did a tower dump back from the day that Brittany went missing on all of the cell towers.
The cell phone records arrive a week after Brittany's disappearance. At 11:57 on the night of April 25th, Brittany's phone pings near the North Santee River in McClellanville. a small town 60 miles south of Myrtle Beach. That's nearly 3 hours after the surveillance video shows Brittany leaving the Blue Water Hotel.
They started searching in a very heavily wooded area for her. I mean, helicopters, ATVs, horseback. It was overwhelming because it's a forest where they were looking for her. And they told me if she was put out there, you know, she would be probably dead within 6 hours because of the wild boar, the alligators, just all the wild animals. But you have to have hope. You have to have faith.
Everybody was there. There was a lot of people that were looking for her. It was a needle in a haystack.
Police are searching for missing teenager Brittany Drexel in a heavily wooded region of South Carolina, after cell phone data shows her phone pinged in the area. It's 60 miles south of Myrtle Beach, where Brittany had snuck away for spring break.
I was just in shock, and I just wanted my sister to come back home.
Through. Because I was convinced Brittany was coming home.
I left at the end of June, and then I went back to Rochester. But I was calling law enforcement every day. I just wanted to find my daughter.
Days, weeks, months, and then years pass with no answers for Brittany's family and friends.
I felt like nothing was going on in Brittany's case. This went on for years. I mean, you're talking, she went missing in 2009. I can tell you, the ball was dropped here. The police wanted me to go away. And I felt like I had to just keep after them and after them and after them. And I didn't care if I was bugging them. I don't care. You're gonna answer to me. I am her mother.
Dawn was desperate for answers. She felt like she wasn't getting cooperation from the police. Imagine trying to put yourself in the position where she's a mom. She's been thrust into of not just the justice system, but trying to maneuver. You're dealing with law enforcement. You're dealing with media. And it's a very foreign and frightening place. I put myself more in a role of, let me help her get her story told.
I held on to just a little bit of hope that she was still alive because I always went back to we didn't have anything.
Dawn Drexel wouldn't quit. She drove all of us crazy. She called me every single day since 2011. It didn't matter if it was Christmas. It didn't matter what time of day it was. And I always answered the phone. Some of my friends would say, you have no boundaries with this woman. And I would say, I can't. I saw what it was like to lose a child. I sat there with her, and nobody would help her.
After more than 2 years with no answers, on August 1st, 2011, out of the blue, Myrtle Beach police receive a strange and stunning call from a young woman. The story she tells concerns her father, a man named Ray Moody.
She said, I think my dad had something to do with Brittany Drexel's disappearance. Mr. Moody, his main girlfriend was Angel. And there was a time that Angel called over there one night and said that Ray was going to get all of them locked up because of what he had done to that girl.
you guys were dating at the time?
Yes.
Myrtle Beach police brought Angel in and talked with her about that after the kids had called. And the substance of that conversation was, Ray didn't have anything to do with that. I'm so sick and tired of people blaming Ray for everything that happens.
Because if you're trying to accuse him of anything, then I'm not going to be involved in it. Because I say he didn't, okay? I say you did not. I'm not accusing him. I'm not, yeah, you are.
Despite Angel's denials, police take a deeper look at Ray Moody.
They were able to get a search warrant at Sunset Lodge, which is hotel / long-term rental. Raymond was staying at that area when Brittany had gone missing.
SLED crime scene technicians, with help from Myrtle Beach Police and the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office, searched an apartment at the Sunset Lodge south of Georgetown today.
They were looking for anything that would tie Ray to Brittany Drexel. They went out and talked with Ray at his cabinet shop. And they told him they were searching for Brittany Drexel. And he said, "You're smart, you'll figure it out."
After years with no leads, Ray Moody is a suspect in the disappearance of Brittany Drexel. Detectives are questioning him after his daughter reported her suspicions about him to the police.
That investigation, that part of it, the search warrant, yielded nothing fruitful. There wasn't enough to arrest him.
Once again, the case goes cold. It's now been 7 years since Brittany vanished on a spring break trip to Myrtle Beach.
I can tell you it felt like a roller coaster ride. That's what it felt like. You know, ups and downs. They would get tips and then it'd be like, oh, you know, maybe she's getting located or whatever the case may be. And then there was false hope. And then that really kills you inside, you know, because they're like, you're just like, is she ever going to be found?
The 4th or 5th year into her disappearance, she wasn't coming back. I'm like, I know she's gone.
It's a strange feeling to have to switch, looking for, you know, somebody physically here, and now we're just looking for, you know, what's left. And that, I think, was the worst thing I've ever gone through, emotionally, the worst thing I've ever felt.
Law enforcement would call me and I would talk to them, and this went on for years.
I spent, I can't tell you how many hours just on the internet doing research. I obsessed over watching the video of Brittany walking in and out of the hotel. I would slow it down to see if there was anything that I could pick up on. I would speed it up. I mean, I watched at all different angles. I couldn't watch it enough because
The informant is an inmate named Taquan Brown, serving a 25-year prison term for manslaughter. He claims that he witnessed a man named Timothy Deshaun Taylor rape and kill Brittany.
He tells the story that Brittany Drexel had been kidnapped in Myrtle Beach, was brought to a house near McClellanville, and she had been tortured and all sort of terrible stuff. And he was over there and had saw all of this stuff, and she had ran out the back door, and they had called her and brought her back in and killed her.
So I was just sitting there sobbing, and I couldn't even talk. I couldn't do it. The FBI told me she tried to escape and she ran out. They went to go get her, brought her back, and then they ended up shooting her. And then they rolled her up in a blanket or a rug and then threw her in an alligator pit. And I walked out of there and I'm like, oh my God. We always had kept hope alive that maybe Brittany was still out there. And That really messed me up, big time. You know, having to picture that in your mind, it's just crazy. You know, to think that someone would do that with my daughter.
Agents furiously work to confirm the details provided by the informant.
Now, what really corroborated his story was Brittany's cell phone had pinged in an area the direction of McClellanville.
Even though that's where the inmate claims Brittany was murdered, investigators know their previous searches in that area were big news stories, and that confidential informants will often say anything in hopes of getting a reduced sentence.
Look, CIs will lie, and I don't use CIs unless I can back up what they're saying.
Timothy Deshawn Taylor is already in jail on separate robbery charges. Authorities work to keep him behind bars while they look for any information that might support the confidential informant's claim. But Dawn believes the awful story could be true.
Dawn did not allow herself any time to mourn. She quickly shifted from, I don't know what happened to my daughter, to where's her body? I want my daughter brought home.
I said, I'm done. I said, I'm done with the bullshit. I said, I want my daughter found. I don't have to wonder where she is anymore.
Seven years after Brittany Drexel disappeared in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, investigators are looking into a stunning claim by a jailhouse informant that he witnessed a man named Timothy Deshawn Taylor murder her.
All of a sudden, the investigation and the media attention, all of us shift to what the investigators tell us. Listen, if the FBI is up there saying, we got a suspect, we believe that this is what happened, you know, Taylor is under investigation, being charged with armed robbery. And I had the opportunity to confront Taylor about his involvement in this case. Did you do this? And he said, no, I did not.
In August 2016, the Taylor family launches a media offensive, releasing a statement maintaining his innocence. They claim the informant lied to the FBI in attempts to cut a deal for early parole.
That informant said that Brittany Drexel was buried at a plot in Berkeley County, which is West Austin. Investigators went down there, and once they start digging, and he says, look, she was fed to alligators, she was not buried. Brown later came in and said, all of that was untrue, I lied. So none of that went anywhere, but there were many more like that, false leads.
Police eventually cleared Timothy Deshawn Taylor of any involvement in Brittany's disappearance. It's another emotionally draining twist for her family and friends.
And by that point, I was so frustrated. I didn't really trust anybody. So after that, I was on the phone with the FBI every week. I mean, they would keep in contact with me, let me know what was going on.
The FBI agents, since 2016 on, were determined to find out what happened and bring my mom that justice that she was grieving and asking for, and the justice that obviously all of us wanted.
I had a meeting with the FBI and some of the law enforcement that was involved in Brittany's case. I just felt like Brittany's never going to be found. This is ridiculous. After that, I felt like nothing was going on in Brittany's case.
Years pass with an investigation that seems to be stalled. Then, in May 2022, 13 years since Brittany was last seen, once again, there's a phone call out of the blue. And once again, it offers hope.
On a Friday night, I get a call from a defense attorney, Scott Bellamy. He said, well, I've got somebody that's wanting to give you some information. He'll give the information to you, but he won't give it to the police. And I said, well, who is it? And he said, Ray Moody.
It's the same man investigators looked at earlier in the case, when his daughter reported that he may have been involved. Police were unable then to connect him to Brittany's disappearance. Now, his lawyer claims Moody has a story to tell, but he'll only tell it to state authorities and not the FBI.
He wants to stay in the state system. He does not want to go in the federal system because he knows he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and he wants to be closer to family members. And if you go in the federal prison, you may be in West Virginia, you may be in California.
Where are y'all from? Alabama. Yeah, that's right. I thought, yeah.
Ray Moody sits down with state investigators and begins laying out the details of what he says happened on the night of April 25th, 2009.
Ray said that in 2009, he and Angel had come to Myrtle Beach. They were riding down the boulevard. He said, so a young lady came out of a hotel, and he said that he and Angel were smoking pot, and Ray asked Brittany, do you want some of this pot? And she said, yeah. Ray said that Brittany got in the back seat. They went where he and Angel had been camping at the pole yards, and they were just going to hang out there for a while.
We're just having a good time, smoking some pot and stuff, you know. Angel left. And while she was gone, I changed the whole subject, what was going on.
Can you describe the events that happened when Angel leaves? So Angel's obviously not involved. Can you talk us through that?
I made her take her clothes off.
Yeah.
And she was pretty cooperative.
Yeah, she was.
But it was against her will.
It was, you know. Did she say anything to you specifically or at that time?
She said she was she'd tell Angel on me.
And did you start to have sex with her, or did something happen to stop that?
To stop me?
Yes.
No, I did.
You did?
I raped her.
And he said, she scratched me, I hit her, all of that was over, and he said, then I killed her. He said, I strangled her to death. Ray Moody never showed any remorse. Was a very disturbed individual at a deep level. Angel came back and said, where is Brittany? And he said, you don't see her, do you? And she said, no. He said, well, don't ever ask about her again. The next morning before daybreak, he got up and he said, I dug the hole, buried her body.
Picked her right up and walked out, probably about 150 feet away. More towards the landing, out where they had like grove of trees and stuff growing, and put her underneath the tree.
So we were like, will you take us to her body? Yeah, I'll take you where she's buried. And they put him on a four-wheeler and drove him through. He said, I haven't been here in 13 years, but that's the place.
A search of the area begins on May 11th, 2022.
So once they start digging, there was bones. There was a nose ring, and there was one contact lens. The next day, they had her as Brittany by her dental records, and then within 2 days, they had DNA that said that is, in fact, Brittany Drexel.
Brittany Drexel's family has spent 13 years desperately searching for answers in her disappearance. And now, with a suspect in custody, they finally have them. But their worst fears have been realized.
I was so mad because Raymond Moody had been a person of interest back in 2011. He's a level 3 sex offender. He shouldn't even be in Myrtle Beach with all the kids and stuff here, okay? You've got to be kidding me.
The most frustrating part of this whole investigation for me is I learned that the day after Brittany Drexel went missing, they pulled Raymond Moody over. When you get a speeding ticket, it came up that he was a registered sex offender. He has scratches on his face. There's a missing girl in town. It doesn't take a genius to say, hey, wait a second. Maybe we should take this guy in. Maybe we should look at him. Nobody batted an eye. She was the perfect target. You know, we hear from him, oh, she wanted to party, she wanted to get in the car and smoke weed. From the friends and family that I've spoken to, Brittany Drexel could not stand the smell of marijuana. She would not smoke marijuana. She would not even date a guy who smoked marijuana. And if Raymond Moody said that he lured her to the car with marijuana, Raymond Moody's lying. It's incomprehensible to me that this guy got away with what he got away with.
I will accept your plea to murder, criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, and to kidnapping.
October 19th, 2022, Raymond Moody pleads guilty to murder, rape, and kidnapping. He is sentenced to life in prison with an additional 2 consecutive terms of 30 years. His girlfriend, Angel, is not charged with any crime.
The driving force to keep this case hot was Dawn Drexel. She was hitting a lot of the same obstacles the police were, but she constantly came back into town, constantly looking, constantly calling. And even though it had to be excruciating, this is something that she has had to endure for 13 years to make sure that she got answers. And as terrible as those answers are, she stuck it out and she got them. And I don't think it would have been possible but for her persistence. She didn't allow anybody to forget about Brittany.
Dawn is a complete icon to me because I don't know how mentally, health-wise, I could have handled it.
That strength from me, I think I felt like I had to find her. But
until we reunite with my sister, Brittany, we will feel we got the answers we wanted, but it will never fill that missing piece in our family. She's still gone.
Brittany was just a beautiful person, and she would do anything for anyone.
About a month before everything happened, it was my birthday party. We all went to dinner with my parents, and we just had an absolute blast. Brittany was laughing and having fun. She ordered this obnoxious steak, and Brittany was 110 pounds soaking wet. So my dad was like, "Are you sure, kid?" and was really eyeing her, and she's like, "Yeah, and I want a grasshopper milkshake too." Personality, her love of life, her infectious attitude, her smile, her laugh, her goofiness. There's nothing I don't miss.
My sister was very kind and caring. She would never hurt us all. And that's something that we're missing from the world now. And this world is such full of hate that I hope one day it can be peaceful for all of us.
Sometimes I'll go back and look at video of her when she was younger. And I do look at her pictures a lot, but, her memory will always be in my heart, I'll always remember the good times I had with her.